Heartbreak yet again for the folks in Columbus. Third in a row, dropping to Michigan. We'll talk about it right now. Ohio State fans, make sure to subscribe right here to the On3 YouTube channel. Appreciate you all in advance. Also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at JDPakel. It's unacceptable. Like, we're all on the same page here. We were at this game a season ago in Columbus when Michigan won the second. And it is very, very obvious. It does not matter the caliber of season you have leading up to that game. If you don't win this game, not okay. There's no way around. There's no, oh, it's okay. They just barely didn't get it done this year. Oh, they look better this year. That's true, they look better this year, but nobody's taking any moral victories from a game like this. And so I think the thing that's frustrating is if you're Ohio State, you matched up much better than you have in years past, but you didn't execute well enough to win the game. Like, the personnel, I think, was right around the formula that you needed to be able to compete how you wanted to compete in this game if you're Ohio State. But again, the margins, the small things ended up adding up and being the difference maker for Michigan in the way they won this game. Now, the title of this book is going to be a little bit different than I think how this ultimately played out, how the story read, because the title is Michigan wins their third in a row. Michigan outrushes Ohio State. Ohio State turns the ball over 2 times. Michigan ends up winning, covering the spread. Like, all that is true, but I think when we look at this game, like, there were multiple times where it felt like, hey, Ohio State, they might be the more physical team today. Hey, they might be the bullet today. They had that 12-play scoring drive where they ran the ball 8 times in a row. It was like, hey, man, Ohio State just out Michigan. But you go back to the frustration is the execution and the things that Ohio State didn't do to put themselves over the top. And I know there's different feelings about going for the field goal there and about, the gameplay of it all. But I think the major frustration here is if you're Ohio State, your edge in a game like this is you are the more dynamic football team. Look at what we have in that receiver room. Look, you have playing running back for you. You have an Avenger playing receiver for you. You think Ohio State, you think wide receiver play, you think Brian Hartline. Why wasn't that the differentiating factor for you yesterday? Why wasn't that something that you were able to take advantage of? If we are the more dynamic football team at Ohio State, why doesn't our approach offensively reflect that? And I think the path for Ohio State here, winning against Michigan, was never a thing where it was, hey, let's beat Michigan at their own game. Hey, let's be the bully and take Michigan down Michigan style. It's probably a nice thing to include in the way that you win the football game, but I think the path to winning was always, hey, let's not get beat at Michigan's game, and then let's win at our game. And that wasn't the case yesterday. Now, why are we in the situation again? I think there's probably a couple of things you could look for, a couple of things you could point to, rather. The first is, I think it's fair to question the aggression offensively of what you did yesterday. And what I mean by that is going back to what I just said. You got Marvin Harrison Jr. Yes, he was over 100 yards. Yes, he had a receiving touchdown. He only had 5 catches. Why are we not doing more creatively like we had earlier in the year to feed 18? Why is he not getting to have his overall say on how this game finishes? I understand he had a fair number of targets. I'm saying, why are we not having surefire ways to put the ball in his hands to have him make the difference? He's the best player on the field at all times. Okay? Best player on the field. Why are we not feeding him? And I'm not here to question play calling. I'm not here to tell you Ryan Day and Ohio State, should have done something different. Hindsight is 2020. But I'm just saying, if you're an Ohio State fan this morning, and your question is, why were we not more aggressive offensively? Why were we not more dynamic offensively? I think that's a fair question to have. Again, hindsight is 2020. These people are making much more money than us to question or to put their offense in position to succeed. So I want to make that very, very clear. But I think it's fair to at least have that question. Now, the second is, I wonder if at quarterback we have the skill set we need to take advantage of the weapons that we have at Ohio State. And this is not a dunk on Kyle McCord kind of session. This is to tell the truth Sunday. We got to have a kind of open dialogue here. Kyle McCord, I thought, was really efficient for the most part this season. But we saw yesterday when the game fell on him, he was not able to make the difference. And I think some of that, too, is I worry about, and going back to the skill set, like I look at Michigan, look at J.J. McCarthy, and J.J. McCarthy is getting some pressure from Ohio State, but he's making plays with his legs to avoid pressure, keep his eyes downfield, make a throw, Maybe he's able to scramble and get a gain like that. Ohio State doesn't have that available to them with Kyle McCord. So again, I'm not saying bench Kyle McCord. I'm not saying he's not your guy, but I am saying my question, again, these are all just questions we have to have today because of the result for the third year in a row. Is it worth looking at a dynamic skill set for the quarterback position going forward into the future? Whether that's next year, whether it's in 3 years, I think there needs to be, at this point in time, a little bit more juice at that quarterback position to win in college football. I think that's what you need. Now we're picking up the pieces today. Third year in a row. What do you do going forward from here? Because it felt like, again, you kind of hit the reset button philosophically. The defense is much better than it was previously. This was a defensive-led football team. It was the line of scrimmage football team. What do? I think you go back to the drawing board yet again. And not that you just totally knock it all down and start over from scratch, but I do think you have to challenge everything if you're Ohio State today. You do have to look in the mirror, have a really honest, tough assessment, and say, why are we not getting it done? Why are we not getting it done? Because Ohio State, it's not a roster where you have to settle for so close. Settle for, we could have won that day. We could have got it done. And to be real, Ohio State as a whole, they have the talent, and I think they took the steps in accordance to the gameplay yesterday to win that football game if they played 100 times. If you play that thing 100 times, Ohio State probably wins half of them. By nature of how that game turned out, Ohio State was in position multiple times to kind of get some leverage and take over. But again, within the margins, and Spencer Holbrook from Letterman Row said this in their post-game reaction, so check out their YouTube channel, check out their website, Letterman Row, the Ohio State On 3 site. They crushed it over there. He was adamant. He's like, the margins, the little things, they added up against Ohio State. And the little things, I think, unfortunately, you point back to your coaching staff, you point back to Ryan Day, because that's someone you have to hold responsible for getting it done. And so today there's going to be a lot of Ryan Day criticism. A lot of people saying, 0 for 3 the last 3 tries. There is a lot more talk around the born on third base stuff. And I'll just say this one more time. The Ryan Day criticism today, that's fair. It's fair by nature of the results. But I would also say this. Ohio State has one of the best coaches in college football in Ryan Day. Just because you haven't gotten it done the last 3 years against Michigan does not mean you have the wrong guy coaching your football team. Ohio State, again, woulda, shoulda, coulda. It wasn't the same script as the last 2 years. He adapted this team to be able to play a game like this. You didn't make your shots when you had to take them. Simple as it gets. Now, the feeling I would also say is with each loss like this, it feels like you're putting a rubber band around a watermelon. It probably doesn't make a difference right now. It probably isn't, one rubber band in itself isn't going to crack a watermelon, but you put enough of those on there and you have enough moments like that and you keep on putting rubber bands around the watermelon, eventually something's got to give. Very, very clear. They would be stupid to fire Ryan Day. They would be stupid to hire somebody else as their head coach. Okay, I want to make that clear. Ryan Day is the right guy at Ohio State right now, but they added another rubber band on yesterday. And the more rubber bands you add on, the more pressure to that watermelon. At some point in time, nobody knows when that's going to happen. There's no real way to tell when that watermelon's going to burst, but at some point in time, you put enough rubber bands on there, and again, something has to give. So let me be clear. The criticism around Ryan Day today, that's fair. Third year in a row, someone's got to be responsible. Whether it's, 100% on him or not, I think is a conversation in itself, and I don't think it is on him, but somebody as the head coach is responsible. I think Ryan Day is one of the best in the business. But this is another rubber band now added on to what's happened the last couple of years. So going forward for Ohio State, obviously they won't play in the Big Ten championship game. Got some help this time last year when they thought their season might be over. If you're Ohio State now, you kind of just watch it unfold. And again, going back to the philosophy, you got to challenge everything, whether it's being more dynamic offensively, whether it's helping Kyle McCord and putting him in position to succeed, whether it's having someone more dynamic at quarterback. I don't know what it is. I'm not here to tell you the answers. I'm just telling you there has to be a real internal look again to get over the hump because they expect better than this. Their roster, I think, is better than how they played yesterday. And it's not okay to lose to Michigan if you're Ohio State. They know that. They feel that way internally. The standard is the standard. And I'm excited to see how they respond. So Make sure you're subscribed. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. Let me know how you feel about this game. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.